Landman, airing exclusively on Paramount Plus, available right here in the Roku portal. And one of the stars of that show, Jon Hamm, back here in the Rich Eisen Show. Good to see you, Jon Hamm. Now, when you read that from Taylor Sheridan on the
then
page,
you go, okay, I'm doing this. I'm doing it. I get to say that to Billy Bob Thornton. I'm signing on.
But you must see that on the page and go, I can make a meal out of that, right?
Oh, it's amazing. You know, I mean, look, he's the proof is in the pudding. With this guy's got, I don't know, I lost count at 6 shows on the air, but like they all have a version of those scenes where they're just fun to watch. They're entertaining as hell. It's about it's kind of a subject that you're not super well versed in or something, but it's wildly interesting. And honestly, to get a chance to work with Billy Bob Thornton, who I've loved, he's a homeboy for me. He's from Arkansas. I'm from Missouri. He's a Cardinal fan. It's all good, but he's just amazing. You know, I mean, he's a great, he's a wonderful guy, but he's also a great actor, and to get to share a screen with him is fantastic.
Yeah, and your scenes with Demi Moore as well.
I know, I get to play, Demi Moore plays my wife. I was like, this is, yes, I just said yes. I don't know, I was like, sure, I'm in.
Exactly, and nobody is as red hot than Taylor Sheridan right now.
Taylor Sheridan. I mean, yeah, like I said, I literally lost count of how many shows he has on the air.
Right.
The list goes on, and they're all good. Lioness is great. Tulsa King's great. All the Yellowstones.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
like how many Yellowstones can you have? So it's fantastic. He's a great guy to work for and with. And yeah, I'm stoked to be in this version of the next iteration of his universe, so to speak.
So did you have a meeting with him? Like, is that how it works?
Yeah,
Okay.
you go down. He has this massive ranch down in West Texas in Weatherford, just west of Fort Worth.
Right.
And you go down there and you go, hey, he goes, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I want to do. What do you think? And you go, great. Yeah, I want to do that. Okay, that's it. It's the greatest audition process ever. You know, you don't have to sit in a room and wait somewhere in, you know, Studio City and look at 9 guys that look like you. He just goes, I want you. Come down here. Let's meet. Let's talk about it, and then we'll do the show.
Right. And Billy Bob Thornton again.
Billy Bob's in. Demi's in. Andy Garcia comes in later in the show. It's fantastic. It's a great group.
Right. And you had mentioned, because again, when I swear, when I heard that you were doing this with Billy Bob Thornton, the thing I thought in my head is you're both Cardinals fans. I really did think that. I mean, because I know he's been here before and he talks about his love for the Cardinals.
He loves the Cardinals, and so do I. One of the last times I'd seen him was at the All-Star game in St. Louis, and he was getting ready. See, when you're a Cardinal fan and you get the opportunity to do this, we're getting ready to play in the celebrity softball nonsense. So they rally up all the Cardinal folks, and it's me, and it's Billy Bob and Nelly. And that's kind of it. I think Ellie Kemper was there and Annie Wershing from 24. But like it's you know, it's of the guys, it's like me, Billy Bob, Nelly. Mm-hmm. That's a wrap. But we're in the clubhouse getting ready with Whitey Herzog and Vince Coleman and Ozzie Smith and all these guys, and I'm like, come on, man. Like, this is, am I here? I'm actually here? This is unbelievable.
So did you protect Nelly in the lineup, or did he, like,
I think Nelly went long. I actually had to play third base next to Ozzie Smith because I wasn't going to play shortstop when Ozzie Smith's on the field.
you didn't tell him to move over?
Yeah, no, I wasn't going to be like, scooch. But when you play third base in a softball game, you are in the firing line. It's not the hot corner. It's like the nuclear corner. So I was playing a very shallow left, really. But I did make a hot stop there that Ozzie Smith laughed at me because I fully had my eyes closed when I made it. And I barely made the throw across the field, but
that is amazing. That's like
it exists somewhere.
That's like Lifetime stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I literally was like, I'm good. I can go home now. I'm done.
So do you chit chat with Billy Bob in between takes and things like that about baseball?
We had some great conversations about baseball. Cardinals not their year this year, not their year the last couple years. But I also want to bring up a little. I had a little problem with one of your callers and the guy from Chicago. Okay. Because my God, what a complaint
about the Chicago sports.
It's so hard to be a Chicago fan. What? I mean, let's start with the Bears' dominance in the 80s. That's fine. That's a long time ago. Then you move into the Bulls. Then you move into the Blackhawks, 2 cups within 2 years. Then you get to the Cubs breaking the curse. This is in this guy's lifetime, I'm sure. Come on, man. Is Chicago running up against Boston as the worst fan base for insufferability? Because It might be.
Spoken like a true man from St. Louis right here. Aren't you the guy?
Let's talk about a city, a fan base that's lost 2 franchises in the course of my lifetime. Not to mention lost to a couple World Series to the Red Sox. I can't hear it from the Chicago people.
Aren't you the guy who, once upon a time, did you take a Cubs hat off of Bill Murray's head or something like that?
No, Bill Murray took a Cardinals hat off my head
what
after
happened?
the Cubs won Game 5 of the World Series, which I predicted. And he threw it over we were at what's that bar in the behind Wrigley in Wrigleyville there, whatever it's called, Mothers or something like that.
Sure.
And there's a little back place, and everyone from Chicago's out there, so it's all the Murrays. And a couple of Blackhawks. Chelios, I think, was there, and a bunch of people. And it's a dance party because they won. They won Game 5, and it's looking good. And I was wearing a vintage St. Louis Cardinal hat as my own little nod to what I thought about the franchise. And
in the middle of a Cubs World Series,
yes, just reminding
Murray
them.
family dance party with Chris Chelios. I think it was Murphy's bar.
Murphy's.
And you're wearing a Cardinals hat there?
I wore it for the whole series. Yes, thank you very much. I just wanted to remind them that some franchises have success over the course of their 100 years on the planet. But Billy saw it and did not take kindly to it, and took it and threw it over the wall into the alley, thinking that's the end of that hat. And I looked and I said, well, there's a door right here. I opened the door and saw the other side of the wall. I picked up my hat and I put it back on my head, and we continued our dance party. It was fine. He made his point. I made my point. The end of that story is that I auctioned that hat off in Chicago to the Make-A-Wish Foundation, and they raised
fantastic
$15,000.
So it all came down. Look, your bitterness led to happiness for
there's
somebody.
No bitterness. It's just I'm just proving a point.
I love it. That sounds like like Michigan planting a flag in the middle of Ohio State after winning that.
Sounds a lot like that.
Don't you think?
Yeah,
it's a little bit of.
It's a similar sensibility. Just reminding them.
You have to. You have to,
guys.
I'm with you, Jon Hamm. I'm with you 100%. I love it. How are your fantasy teams doing right now?
All of the ones that don't have Saquon Barkley on them are doing terribly. The 2 that I have Saquon on are doing quite good.
One of the greatest fantasy years in the history of fantasy football. I mean, right?
Also, we were talking about it a little bit off camera, but what a weekend. What a crazy NFL weekend. Yeah. That Rams Bills game was out of control. Somebody in one of my leagues, I think, put up 250 points.
It makes sense. I mean,
they had Allen. They had whatever receiver went
Jefferson
off. Nakua, I think.
If you had Addison, Nakua,
and Allen, I think that alone was 160 points, and that was without the rest of his team. He put up 250.
You could do that. I mean, I'm going against Allen this week, against actually the director of this segment right now.
Fair enough.
The second 60-point performance I've had to endure. The man over your right shoulder has Saquon Barkley, T.J. Jefferson. That was another one.
How about Jerry Jeudy last week?
Exactly.
Exploding.
That's another one. Wow. Yeah, maybe if you toss in a little Charbonnet on top of it, you got a 250
it's
point
unreal.
performance.
I mean, and I feel like fantasy this year has been that. It's feast or famine. Because some of these guys either throw up a huge number or just disappear.
What leagues are you in? Just old school? I know you got buddies from way back in the day that you're still very tight with.
That's the kind of the one I've been in the longest.
That's the one you want to win the most, right?
I've at least won almost every one of these that I've been in. The best ball thing I can't get my head around.
I can't do it.
I don't understand it. I don't get it.
Wait, John, are you still in the Bill Simmons one where they kick someone out?
Yes, I'm still in that. I'm in the playoffs in that. But yeah,
what do you mean they kick someone out?
Well, it's kind of the greatest rule. The reason I got in was because they initiated this rule.
Yes.
That the winner of the league shall, on the day of the draft, decide that one person is out of the league for the year.
So they have an odd number of people.
Yes. So and I was the new guy to come in. So they kicked whoever out the first year. I came in.
Wow.
And it's the day of the draft. So you have to get all your stuff ready and ready to go. And it's evolved into this elaborate Survivor style. Yeah. There's a whole, there are games involved. It's recorded and put out on the internet on the various people who are in this league's podcasts and websites and whatnot.
Wow.
It's a very elaborate thing now. I've been on the receiving end of the kicking out. Famously, I came directly from the set of Mad Men to the draft, which was at some bar in Hollywood, and I'm rushing there. I'll be there in a minute. I'm sorry we ran late. And I get there and I put my bag down and I take my laptop out and I get a beer and I go, okay, and then we go and they go, Ham, you're out, and I go, okay, and I finish my beer and I put it back in and I put my backpack and away I go.
Were you dressed as Don Draper at the
I
time?
had the hair still, for sure. I mean, I was definitely, that stuff takes a while to wash out. But yeah. Also, don't throw up a clip from 2017 before I come out. I was like, my God, my hair was dark. I looked 7 years younger.
Listen, don't worry. I'm no matter what, I will look worse in those clips. I can guarantee you that. Anything from 2017 does not bode well for me. So in your vast career of working with a large number of people, comedies and dramas, who's the one that I wouldn't expect to be a fantasy footballer that is a fantasy footballer? Like Kristen Wiig be in a fantasy league? Or
Wiig
anything?
is not on that train.
I'm trying to give you examples.
I'm trying to think of who. Yeah, I'm trying to think of who is a surprise, because most people, Rudd and Seth Meyers, like guys like that, they're heavy into it.
Yeah,
which man, that's a good question.
If there's nobody, I will accept that answer as well. But
I can't come off of somebody off the top of my head.
Yeah, like
that's a shocker.
We had Jodie Foster here, and she was like talking about how Jordy Nelson got her into fantasy football, and she's a diehard fantasy football player.
That's impressive.
We would never expected that. Like
she's cool. I ran into her this summer. I was in New York working on a new TV show this summer, and literally she was going to the post office with a letter in her hand, walking her dog to the post office, and I go, hey, and we met each other a couple times with various things. I said, Jody, hey, how you doing? She goes, hey, how's it going? We had a nice conversation. I go, where are you going? She goes, post office. I mail a letter.
They're just like us.
I know. I was like, first of all, who mails a letter?
Just text someone.
That's your reaction.
Yeah.
You mailing something to me? Like, well, you are in New York, right? I mean, I'm going way back with that reference.
John, you might not know, Demi actually used to play fantasy football.
That's what I was gonna say.
She was
anybody
in my league for a few years.
She would be the one I would think like might be an outside chance, but we didn't talk about it.
But you can confirm she is a fantasy football player?
Well, she used to. She was in my league for, I think, like 3 years.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Okay.
Impressive.
Yeah. Right.
She's having a good year. A good year off the fantasy roles. I know that.
Well, I mean, this show is awesome, man. Jon Hamm here in support of Landman. It really is. It's so terrific here on the Rich Eisen Show. While you mentioned Don Draper, what is your favorite line from Mad Men that you said? I mean, the number of times that I get stuck in my algorithm. I know you're not on social media, but every now and then I will get a scene that you are just peeling the paint off the wall. You're crushing it as Don Draper. What line of yours?
There's a couple. I mean, look, I did that show for 8 seasons over 9.5 years, basically throughout the entirety of my late 30s and early 40s. It's a great show. I'm super proud to have it in my history and in my life. And there's so many good lines. There's 2 that I think I could focus on. One is very famously a scene where the focus of it is that's what the money is for. Because someone is complaining about not getting thanked. A lot like a Chicago fan complaining about not winning enough championships.
Right. I think it was Elizabeth Moss's character saying she was
angry, perturbed that she hadn't been thanked enough, and the response was, that's what the money is for. But there's another great scene where I'm in the elevator with Vincent Kartheiser's character Pete Campbell. No, I take it back. It wasn't Pete. It was Ginsberg, and he says, I feel sorry for you. And I look at him and I go, I don't think about you at all.
Savage.
And it's such a great takedown, and it was shot in a great way, and he's kind of like eviscerated, and it was a fun day.
Yeah, I mean, again, when you see stuff like that on a script, you just know like you're going to stick the landing on something like that.
Yeah,
right?
It's fun. That stuff that's what the money is for, so to speak. But that's why we get into this gig is to have those moments and show those things. It's great. I haven't gone back and watched Mad Men. I have to do that at some point because I do remember liking the show.
Well, I mean, please. I mean, it was as great as any TV show that's ever been made.
I mean, I didn't say it.
Well, I just did. And it was, by the way, an absolute delight to see you back in the role in Seinfeld's movie recently on Netflix, man. Like,
yeah. That was a fun little Easter egg. I got it. It's funny when you get a thing on your phone and it's an unknown number or whatever. You're like, no thanks. And then you get the voicemail. It's Jerry Seinfeld. You're like, okay, that's weird. But yeah, this was during heavy COVID too, so we were all masked up, and it was very hush hush and surprise. But it was great. It was super fun. I said I'll do it if Slattery does it. Slattery said I'll do it if Hamm does it. So we both showed up on the day, and it was super fun.
And you got back into character.
Yeah,
and it was.
fun.
I mean, that movie had tons of cameos. That one was the one where I racked it back, and I'm like, funny. Wow, that was amazing.
Very, very funny. Jerry, I now know, was a very big fan of the show, and that was his little wink and a nod.
Right. Which it was great. And just seeing you and Slattery back in those roles but he's the one who personally called you and left you a voicemail message?
Yeah. I hope this is Jon Hamm. It's Jerry Seinfeld. And I was like, okay, wow.
That's how it started? That's how the voicemail started?
Because I don't have an outgoing message. So he's like, well, I'm good. We'll see.
That is absolutely funny. So let me just throw this one out there as well, because the comedies that you have been in are just absolutely friggin' classic. Bridesmaids, when that one showed up on your doorstep.
I got that. That one came to me because I had hosted Saturday Night Live 3 times in 2 years.
Right.
And Kristen was on in the cast for all 3 of them, and we did so many sketches together. We became really good friends, and she came to me at some point when I was one of the times I was hosting and said, we're making this movie and Judd Apatow's going to produce it, and I'm writing it with my best friend Annie, and I just really want you to be in it. Would you consider being in it? And I was like, well, I'd love to, but I have a day job. Mad Men is April through August or whatever it was, or March through August. I said, so it's my schedule's tricky, and that's exactly the time that that Saturday Night Live is not on. So it was kind of like, I knew it would have to be a summertime thing. I said, but I'll happily. She goes, well, okay, we wanted you to be for the lead, but we know you can't do that, but maybe you can. There's this other part we really want you to do. I said, okay. And she goes, we haven't really written it yet, so there's nothing to see. I go, whatever, I'll do it. And I ended up doing that movie uncredited. I'm not in the credits of that movie.
You're not?
No.
Which
for
is
whatever reason.
It's very Bill Murray-esque, by the way.
So she ended up writing this thing, and then the whole first thing is us basically, bouncing around on top of each other. I was like, Kristen, okay, I guess this is what we're doing. But we shot it the last day of shooting. It was the only day I had free, and that they could fit it in. So literally all that stuff in the beginning when we're doing all the crazy sex stuff is the last day of shooting, when literally the crew is like, can you guys wrap this up, please, with your nonsense? And we couldn't keep a straight face. There was so many dumb things. It was such a fun experience, and Kristen remains to this day a very dear friend. So I was super happy with all the success.
Which is the comedy where you did the most ad-libbing? That one for sure.
For sure. Yeah, it was because it was encouraged. The part, as I mentioned, was hadn't really been written out, other than he's a bad boyfriend, and then kind of go with that. So all the stuff with Kristen and I in the car, and I'm like, want to take a little lap nap? You want to? That was all. We just came up with it because we're driving a car and we're just basically riffing and talking. It's like there's no action or cut. We're just driving as much as we can.
And who are the musical acts when you did SNL? Do you remember?
I had my first time was Coldplay, and they had to play an extra song because that was the weekend that Amy Poehler had her baby.
Wow.
She had her baby at 4:00 on Saturday, so she was technically unavailable for the show.
Well, a good thing you had the right band for an extra song.
And they had one ready to go. Turns out they're prolific. And then the second time I had Bublé, and then the third time I had Rihanna.
Whoa.
Damn, man.
Great.
I had a solid swath of the music industry.
We had Michael Bublé in that chair 2 months ago, and what a delightful
He's a
human
great
being.
guy.
Holy cow.
Great guy.
What a delightful human being.
Yeah. Vancouver's best.
Yeah, he couldn't have been nicer, and I told him about how I'm a big karaoke guy, and I asked him about what it feels like to have a band behind you while you're just nailing Sinatra, and he offered to have me actually do it with him.
Fun. And did you take him up on it?
It's one of those things where, again, he doesn't strike me as one of those LA types who just says it just to say it.
He'll totally do it.
Right. And so I guess
But you got to come correct.
I gotta follow up.
You better start warming up now.
No, Rich is good, John.
Thank you, Mike.
I don't doubt it. He's got a voice like, spun sugar.
good.
Are you kidding me? This guy's a professional broadcaster.
He does a great Sinatra.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate
seen
you
it many
caping.
times.
You having my back right here. Before I let you go, you got any thoughts on Soto? What do you think? All that-
I was listening to you guys talk about it. It's a funny thing when you spend that much money on one guy on a team that has, by law, has to field 9 guys. You go, okay, cool. I think the fielding liability is funny and going to be a little bit of a wild card, but that's why they have the DH and the thing, If I'm Edgar Ramirez right now, I'm kind of Edgar Martinez. I'm really wishing I lived in a different generation.
Can you imagine?
Right.
You know what I mean? But
He is one of the greatest hitters I've ever seen.
all time. Anybody that works in professional baseball will say that too, because he's just the dude raked. But yeah, he could have been a $1 billion guy. I don't know. I think it's great. I think it certainly changes the game in the National League East. We'll see.
Well, I didn't speak inappropriately for you, John, when I was giving my take on it earlier, that on behalf of a Red Sox fan, a Yankee fan, or anyone else, and I mentioned you, at least the Dodgers didn't get him.
At least the Dodgers didn't get him, sure.
Because that would have been just like you just fold up Major League Baseball.
Well, no offense, it would have looked a lot like the Yankees in the 90s.
No offense taken. No offense taken.
Again, if I hear another goddamn Yankee fan complain about who's getting who and how much they spent. The Pujols take was correct, by the way, too, because I was sad to see him go.
Yes,
but we got a lot of value for our time with Albert.
Yeah. No question about it.
Yeah, and he remains one of the great Cardinals and one of the great people on the planet.
Tell me about your Friends and Neighbors starting next April on Apple TV.
On Apple TV, it's Apple TV Plus, I think.
Okay.
I don't know. There's always a plus. It's my new show. It's very exciting. Written by a guy named Jonathan Tropper, who sharp-eyed viewers might recognize from some of the other shows out there. It's a very cool show. I haven't really seen it like a tone like it. I play a guy who kind of comes across hard luck in his job and starts stealing from his wealthy friends and neighbors to make ends meet.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a very interesting setup, and it's a very cool looking show, and I'm excited for people to see it. It's myself, Olivia Munn, Amanda Peet, others.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
and it starts on
stuff.
Apple
It'll
TV
start
Plus.
on Apple in April, and
April.
we're going to start shooting the second season as well. We already got
picked up. Dude.
Yes, indeed. Come on now.
Executive produced by you as well.
By me.
And Landman, dude, you're awesome in it. The show is just fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely taken in, and can't wait to see how it all turns out by the end. And you can check that out right here on the Roku portal on Paramount Plus. Landman releases on Sunday nights exclusively on Paramount Plus. You're the man. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks for having me, bud.
The one and only Jon Hamm here on The Rich Eisen Show. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.